How would you have reacted if one of the Umbrella Academy stars had popped in front of you and given you a crucial spoiler about 2020? That's actually what Justin Min, who plays Ben Hargreaves, said he would do if he had the chance to do time travel. Quite helpful, that guy. But speaking of Umbrella Academy, I'm actually here to talk about some fantastic TV and web series today. Quality TV shows are the few things we can still safely enjoy, and I'm filled with newfound appreciation for those who have seamlessly worked their mistakes into the narrative. So let's have a look today at the most interesting mistakes that you'll find on TV. We'll be looking at quite a few recent releases here, and regardless of how new or old the examples are, there will be spoilers ahead. All right, here we go.
I mean, there's only one way to find out, right?
Sure.
Let's go.
The members of the Umbrella Academy were hurled into yet another apocalypse, to sort of summarize it, after the mind-boggling events of Season 1. But other than that common thread, the Hargreaves are also battling their own individual demons. Diego is coping with the loss of a dear friend and Allison her voice. Klaus is Klaus, and Five has faced reoccurring traumas to save the world and his family. Also, whether they like it or not, the Hargreaves have embarked on a journey of discovering unprecedented things about their father, and as the famous elevator scene stands to show, this is especially relevant for Luther, who arguably has the daddy of daddy issues amongst the siblings. As those who have seen Season 2 might already know, Luther was on the way to meet his father with his siblings for a quote-unquote light supper. From number one's nervous point of view, that directly translates into flatulence. This premise was completely scripted, but it became one of the hardest scenes the actors had to shoot because David Castaneda just couldn't cope.
Luther. Oh, God. Sorry, I'm nervous.
It's clear that they never really got a clean take for this scene, and it was just left in the show in all its bloopery glory. Those super fans who know and see everything will also point out that another scene has a particularly funny backstory. In episode 7 of Season 2, Klaus literally throws Ben up in an effort to get him out of his body. The vomit rig attached to Robert Sheehan's body malfunctioned a little before it actually worked, so when he opened his mouth for the vomit scene, nothing came out at first. The desired projectile gushed out a few seconds later, and judging from the final cut, it looks like everything worked out just fine. Justin Min didn't quite warn us about 2020, but that job traditionally belongs to The Simpsons. The TV show, famous for its hallmark predictions, has accidentally foreshadowed its own character arrivals. Maggie was born in the show in Season 6, and the episode called A Maggie Makes 3 showed Marge and Homer bracing for the new baby's arrival, with her picture already framed and mounted on the wall behind them. Matt Selman, who wrote and produced some of the show, posted a picture highlighting the mistake on his Twitter handle. Then, writer Al Jean jumped into the thread and joked about firing 17 people for that mistake made in 1995. What's interesting is that the episode made the exact same mistake, with Lisa in a flashback scene about Marge's second pregnancy. If you did a quick IMDb recon of this episode, you'll find several more continuity errors listed there. And listen, I gotta be honest here, it was rewarding going down that little rabbit hole. The Simpsons example really got me in the mood for some shameless nitpicking. And believe me when I say this, nitpicking and forming a weird obsession for 80s bicycles was the only way I could have stumbled across these Stranger Things goof-ups. Let's start with The Light That Never Goes Out. It's a sentimental song by the Smiths that otherwise fits in wonderfully with the show's depiction of the 80s nerd and pop cultures. It also lines up well with the context in which it was used in the sweet flashback scenes between Jonathan and Will. The only problem here is that the song didn't come out until 1986, while the show is set in 1983. In fact, most of the show's mistakes stem from similar existential problems. Barb's Volkswagen wasn't made until 1998, the Demogorgon figurine was released in 1984, and the high-end Radio Shack walkie-talkies in the show were supposedly not around until 1985. The fault-finding doesn't end there. Fans who did some theorizing about the mysterious lights on the show's retro bikes brought up another issue. They were orange in the daylight. While it's understandable for the bikes themselves to not be age-accurate, headlights in the 80s were definitely not orange, according to Jason Torchinsky, who explored this error. While pursuing it, he found that the orange tint is actually a gel used in production to control color temperatures during the night shoots, so the gel was probably left on by mistake and made it all the way to TV for nerds like me to fuss over. As much as I enjoy putting Stranger Things under scrutiny, there's a sense of purpose to the show's inconsistencies. The Duffer Brothers were clearly more concerned about creating a nostalgic vibe than curating exact replicas of old-timey props, which can't have been easy to find. But I'd give a bigger nod to creators who make deliberate mistakes despite knowing that people like me will come for them. This happened most recently when the third season of The Crown came out with its full trailer. Olivia Colman picked up the Queen's journey in that season, which showcased the Silver Jubilee celebrations of the British monarch, and the trailer prominently featured an announcement calling the event a day as grueling as the Queen's coronation 25 years ago. Discerning fans quickly pointed out that this was a mistake. As per the royal timeline, Queen Elizabeth II was coronated in 1953, a year after her father's death in 52. That would place her Silver Jubilee 24 years after the coronation, not 25. The trailer, however, was simply being accurate. BBC revealed that the error was present in the genuine archival footage of the broadcast, and the producers seemed to have retained it to keep things as real as possible. Supernatural had a spectacular run on television. It's left such a huge void in my heart since it abruptly ended that I could collapse into myself like a dying star. So bear with me as I take you all the way back to season 1, to a fun little episode called Provenance. Sam and Dean find themselves in Evelyn's house in this episode when they investigate twin murders related to a painting. In the same context, Dean calls out to his brother, Jared.
Jared, check it out.
Now, I wouldn't blink twice if someone called Jensen and Jared brothers. We're all huge J2 stans around here, but that makes it a mistake all the same. The way Jensen just mumbled Jared in that scene made the goof up all the more confounding, and some people claimed to have heard him correctly say Sam. But there is substantial evidence that suggests that Jensen actually admitted to the mistake at a convention. If you go through the subtitles of the episode though, you'll obviously find Sam written there to cover the mistake up and put the matter to bed. Another television show with the trajectory similar to Supernatural in some ways is The Big Bang Theory. The sitcom was on air for more than a decade and left a pretty long trail of slip-ups in its wake. Lance Barber, who plays George Cooper Sr. in Young Sheldon for instance, is the same guy who played Leonard's bully by the name of Jimmy Speckerman. The show's other blunders also include the different names it had for Penny's dad, Sheldon's ambiguous zodiac sign, but the most striking Big Bang Theory plot hole revolves around the show's famously broken elevator. In season 1, the elevator is revealed to have been broken for 2 years, but later on, an episode called The Staircase Implementation shows that it broke due to one of Leonard's mistakes 7 years ago. This puts the timeline in jeopardy as it is. But the plot hole only thickened after the sitcom blatantly made Howard chase the story behind the broken elevator despite him having witnessed it firsthand in the early seasons. It's baffling to see a series about intelligent characters get away with such noticeable errors itself. I guess we just say bazinga and call it a day.
Bazinga.
I cannot bring this discussion to an end without at least mentioning the Starbucks cup and phone chargers in Game of Thrones. But another iconic TV show that caused a similar flurry during its own runtime was Downton Abbey. In fact, a promotional poster from the historical drama is right up there in the Game of Thrones alley because it boldly features a plastic bottle sitting on a mantelpiece. Let's not forget that Downton Abbey also contributes quite famously to the list of period dramas that have been called out for historical inaccuracies. Despite its impressive portrayal of the early 20th century, tiny blunders in the show's landscape pop up every now and then. These were mostly limited to glimpses of TV aerials, yellow lines, a stop sign, and even a peek of a modern conservatory at one point. If you wanted to be too specific, then you might also wonder about the Crawley House requiring a larger staff for the upkeep, but let's keep that aside for the moment, because what riled people up far more was perhaps the show's use of modern phrases and vocabulary, like get knotted or get shafted. Viewers were also not too happy with the concept of a professional woman and the use of the word boyfriend, both of which were not commonplace in the real Downtown era, but were used anyway. The criticism didn't sit too well with creator Julian Fellows, and he had infamously called these viewers socially insecure people. Of course, he later expressed regrets over that statement, and it's been years since the show ended. The Crawleys went on to indulge Downtown fans once again by reprising their roles for a Downton Abbey movie that was released in 2019. In spite of making the risky transition from television to the big screen, the film did well enough for its creators to consider ideas for a sequel. I am absolutely on board with the idea of another Downtown movie, as long as Maggie Smith agrees to be in it.
Simple vulgarity is no substitute for wit.
I'm gonna wrap up this discussion on that hopeful note. As for you, Screen Ranters, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let us know which TV mistakes hit you the hardest in the comments below, and keep watching our videos for more movie and TV insights. See ya!